Imagine climbing into the cockpit of a fighter plane for the last time. Your hands shake as you grip the controls. The engine roars beneath you. You're 19 years old, maybe 22. You kissed your mother goodbye yesterday. She cried but didn't ask you not to go. She couldn't. You look down at the photograph tucked into your jacket. Your younger sister smiling, unaware that you will never see her grow up. There's just enough fuel in your tank to reach the target. Not a drop more, because you're not meant to return. No landing gear will touch ground again. No celebration awaits. No future stretches beyond the next 30 minutes. You are the weapon now. In the final desperate months of World War II, as Japan's cities burned and its armies retreated, military leaders conceived one of the most horrifying strategies in the history of warfare: the kamikaze attack plan. This wasn't merely a tactic. It was the transformation of human beings into guided missiles. It was suicide weaponized. It was an entire generation of young men told that the most honorable thing they could do was die, and thousands did. By 1944, Japan was bleeding out. The empire that had swept across Asia with terrifying speed now found itself cornered, suffocating under the weight of American industrial might. The Imperial Japanese Navy, once feared across the Pacific, lay in ruins at the bottom of the ocean. The Battle of Midway had gutted it. The Battle of the Philippine Sea had annihilated what remained. American submarines prowled Japanese waters like sharks, sinking supply ships and starving the home islands. Island by island, the United States advanced. Saipan fell. Guam fell. Tinian became an American airbase from which B-29 bombers would soon firebomb Tokyo into ash. Japan's Air Force was a shadow. Veteran pilots, men with years of training and hundreds of hours of combat experience, were dead. Shot down over the Pacific, crashed into jungles, drowned in burning wreckage. The pilots who remained were boys, hastily trained, given weeks, sometimes days of instruction, taught to take off but never how to land properly, because they wouldn't need to know. Fuel reserves dwindled, oil shipments were cut off, aluminum was scarce, rubber non-existent. Defeat wasn't approaching. It was here, suffocating, inevitable. So Japan's military leadership made a choice that would haunt history. If they couldn't win the war, they would make it so costly, so psychologically devastating, that perhaps, just perhaps, America would negotiate peace rather than face the horror of invading the Japanese mainland. They would turn their pilots into bombs. The word kamikaze means divine wind, a reference to the legendary typhoons of 1274 and 1281 that destroyed Mongol invasion fleets and supposedly saved Japan by divine intervention. Now leaders hope for another miracle, but this time the storm would be made of flesh and steel and willingness to die. The plan was brutal in its simplicity. Load aircraft, often old, barely functional planes that couldn't compete with American fighters, with explosives. Fill them with young men who'd been told that death for the emperor was the highest honor. Give them just enough fuel for a one-way trip. Point them toward American carrier groups and have them dive at full throttle directly into enemy ships. No evasion, no retreat, no survival. The target wasn't just military destruction, it was terror. Because how do you defend against someone who doesn't fear death? How do you shoot down a pilot who's already accepted that he's dead? Sometimes, horrifyingly, it worked. American sailors watched the sky with mounting dread. At first, they thought damaged planes were losing control. Then they realized the pilots were aiming for them, steering deliberately into ships even as anti-aircraft fire tore through their wings. The psychological impact was devastating. You could shoot at a kamikaze plane, riddle it with bullets, blow off a wing, and it would still keep coming, trailing smoke and fire, the pilot wrestling with dead controls to reach his target. During the Battle of Okinawa in the spring of 1945, wave after wave of kamikaze attacks hammered Allied naval forces. The USS Bunker Hill, hit by 2 kamikazes in 30 seconds, became a floating inferno. Over 600 sailors died. The USS Laffey survived hits from 6 kamikaze planes and 4 bombs in 80 minutes of hell, earning the nickname, the ship that would not die. Hundreds of ships were damaged. Dozens were sunk. Thousands of sailors, young men themselves far from home, were killed in explosions and fires, trapped in compartments filling with seawater or burned beyond recognition. But step back from the tactical horror and look at the pilots themselves. Most kamikaze pilots weren't wild-eyed fanatics eager to die for glory. They were conscripted students, university boys who'd been studying literature or engineering, farm kids who'd never seen a plane up close before the war. Many were barely 20 years old. In their final letters, hundreds of which survived, you can hear their fear bleeding through the carefully constructed expressions of duty and honor. "I am a human being and hope to be neither saint nor scoundrel, hero nor fool, just a human being," wrote one pilot. Another wrote to his mother, "Please do not grieve for me. It is my honor to die for my country, but I do wish I could have had more time." The night before missions, pilots held farewell ceremonies. They drank sake, sang songs, wrote final letters by candlelight. Some tucked photographs of their families into their flight suits. Small reminders of what they were supposedly dying to protect. They wore hachimaki, white headbands with the rising sun, symbols of samurai warriors. But beneath the ceremonial bravado, many were terrified. Some vomited before boarding their planes. Others had to be helped into their cockpits, legs shaking too badly to climb the ladder alone. Training bases became factories of death. Young men learned to fly just well enough to reach a target. They practiced dive angles, calculated approach speeds, studied diagrams of American ships to identify the most vulnerable points. The flight deck, the bridge, the ammunition stores. They were given methamphetamine pills to stay alert and suppress fear during the final dive. They were told their death would turn the tide of the war. They were lied to. More than 3,800 Japanese pilots died in kamikaze missions. Some estimates go higher, nearly 5,000. Each one left behind a family that would wait for news that would never come. Parents who'd been told their son died gloriously, but who knew in the silent grief of their hearts that he'd been sent to die because Japan had run out of options. The attacks slowed the American advance. They inflicted casualties. They injected terror into the Allied fleet. But they couldn't change the outcome. Japan's strategic situation didn't improve. It worsened. American B-29s firebombed Japanese cities into smoking wastelands. The Navy blockaded the islands. Famine spread. Industry collapsed. And then came August 1945. Hiroshima, Nagasaki, wore atomic weapons that killed more people in seconds than months of kamikaze attacks had. Japan surrendered. The pilots who'd been preparing for missions that would never happen, who'd written final letters and made peace with their mortality, learned that they would live after all. Some felt relief. Others felt a strange, hollow guilt, as if by surviving, they'd failed. The kamikaze attack plan remains one of history's most disturbing military tactics. Not because it was unique in its brutality, war is always brutal, but because of what it represented, the deliberate sacrifice of young lives in a cause already lost. Was it bravery? In the sense that facing death requires courage, perhaps. Was it desperation? Absolutely. A nation backed into a corner, choosing horror over surrender. Was it tragedy? Undeniably. Thousands of young men with futures, with dreams, loves, ambitions, reduced to expendable munitions in a war their leaders couldn't win. Today in Japan, the memory is complex and painful. Some view kamikaze pilots as tragic heroes. Others see them as victims of a militaristic regime that valued death over life, sacrifice over survival. Their letters are preserved in museums. Their photographs stare out from exhibits. Young faces, unsmiling, knowing. Visitors read their final words and weep. Because the kamikaze attack plan wasn't just a military strategy. It was a monument to how far fear and desperation can drive human beings. How easily young lives can be spent by old men in power. How the machinery of war can grind up an entire generation and call it honor. And the most frightening thing about the kamikaze pilots isn't that they were willing to die. It's that they were taught they should die, that death was more valuable than life. that a young man's greatest contribution was to become a weapon and disappear into smoke and flame and water. Because sometimes the most terrifying weapon in war isn't a bomb or a bullet. It's a human being who's been convinced that not coming back is the only way forward. And in those final moments, in the cockpit, diving through anti-aircraft fire, heart pounding, photograph over his heart, the ship growing larger in his vision, each pilot faced the loneliest death imaginable, chosen for them, inevitable, alone in the sky with no way home.